So now that that's off, our next thing is going to be something I'm going to point out for now, but I'm not going to really take it off because there's these wires. Obviously something that was put on after, because it runs between the transmission mount bolts. There's a hole there where they, I don't know if that, I guess that's the brake lines go through that on this side. And somebody ran those wires through it and they go somewhere up front. I can't tell where, and they are hooked onto the frame back here. So I'll have to pull that clip off, and then I'm going to have to move to show you the other side of it. They come past that clip, which I just got off, and they go over top of the cross member in the back of the frame, and they go up into the battery compartment. So what I'm going to have to do is probably put the car down, take the clips off the end of those, drop those through, and then coil them up, run them to the front of the car. They're taped on in several places. And while I'm back in this area, this is battery grounding cable. I will take that off and get that out of the way. So the battery ground cable is held on with a 5/8 bolt. There's another ground wire also in there with it. So I'll have to make sure when I put it back together that I get that ground wire under that battery cable, or something won't work. Don't know what it is, but it'll be something. So I'll take that off and be back in a bit. So the battery ground is off, and so is the other ground wire that was attached to it. Now, I don't know what this is to, but I'm pretty sure that's not factory, because factory would have never installed that without some kind of a terminal on the end of it. So I'm going to put the car down. Decided I don't want to do any more hard work today, so I'm going to go into the battery compartment and release those wires so that I can take them off and coil them up at the front. I discovered that those two wires underneath are to an aftermarket alarm system that was installed on this car by somebody. You notice there's a terminal called G, that's ground, which it has a brown wire coming out near it. Okay, that has a house wiring wire net that went to the piece of wire that was underneath the ground cable on the bottom side of the car. The other side of that goes to one of the wires that is under the car. And it's soldered, so I have to just clip that to get that out, which I will do. And the other wire that comes out from under the car goes to a switch that turns on and off the the alarm, the aftermarket alarm. It's got about a 30-second timer on it, which I guess is that black box that allows you time to get in and find the switch and turn it on. I'm assuming, in case I use this, I don't want to show where the switch is, but I'm assuming that the switch just grounds it out and that sets off the alarm. So I'm going to snip those two wires, and I'll be able to pull those black wires out from underneath, and I'll be able to take them out from under the transmission mount. And then I think I'm going to call it a day. So a stock Stingray 76, if it had an alarm system, and I don't know if they were standard, there's a keyhole right here next to the Stingray emblem on the front fender on the driver's side. And that's how he turned it on and off. It was operated with a relay, and it would cause the horns to come on. I don't know what the person did when they installed this aftermarket one, or whether they weren't happy with the stock one, or whether it broke and they didn't know how to fix it or didn't want to fix it. But I think even if I do reuse that alarm that's in there, because it has a siren as opposed to blowing the horn, if I do use that, I think what I'll do is I'll set it up so that it operates off of this key, just like the original ones did. So here's the siren in the front. I've determined it has a couple wires, 3 wires to it. One is a green wire, and it goes to a wire. I'm sorry, that's the blue wire. Blue wire, they're hard to tell the difference. The blue wire was connected to a long wire that had no other things connected to it till it got to the battery compartment, and it was either the power coming out of the switch, or it was the connector to the delay unit, so that you had like 30 seconds to open or shut off the alarm once you got into the car. I suspect that's the one it was. There's another one, the green wire, and it's clipped to a wire that simply ran to the hood switch, and that grounded it out, caused the alarm to trigger. And the final wire, which I believe was hooked to the power coming out of the switch that turned it on and off, goes to a black wire here. And the reason I believe that's the power wire is because it's thicker than the other two. It's a heavier gauge. So I probably should have pulled them out one at a time since they're both black. I didn't expect the wiring up here to be this confusing, but that wire also has a splice in it that goes to this unit over here, which is a shock sensor. And this thing has a little adjustment on it so you can adjust how sensitive it is, and then it has a ground coming out of it. So I suspect that one wire supplied power to the shock sensor, and it also supplied power to the siren. And then there's one more wire that's a pretty thick one. I don't understand why it's so thick. but it's just a ground wire. It goes to the grounding post on the alternator, and it actually goes to, it's hard to see here without any light, it actually goes down in there to a bolt that bolts the siren onto the firewall. So I think that I've got this all figured out for now. Like I said, the one thing I would change, hopefully I can get to it once the body's off, is I think I would want to have the on-off switch be this key and make it like the original just for kicks. So 2 minutes left on my battery, so that's it for today.